Once roaming almost the entire savannas, grasslands, forests, and deserts of Africa and Asia, the lion now survives in shrinking fragments of its former empire, a monarch in permanent retreat. When you imagine the ultimate apex predator, you picture this golden cat standing over a vast, unbroken kingdom. But the reality of their domain is far more fractured than the myth suggests. Today, there is only a single species of lion left on Earth, Panthera leo, genetically divided into two distinct modern bloodlines. In the north, stretching from the scrublands of West and Central Africa all the way to a tiny, isolated pocket in Asia, reigns Panthera leo. To the south and east, ruling the classic, sprawling African plains you've seen in every wildlife documentary, is Panthera leo melanochaeta. Globally, the species is listed as vulnerable by the IUCN, but that broad label hides a much darker truth. Certain populations, like the West African lions, are critically endangered. Their numbers so severely depleted they are essentially holding on by a thread, while the Asiatic lion remains completely bottlenecked in a single geographic fortress. Their shrinking empire is a brutal reminder of a biological truth. No matter how loudly you roar, a king cannot survive without a kingdom. African lions are the largest and most emblematic of all living lions, the absolute archetype of the king of beasts. When you stand before full-grown male of the African populations, the sheer scale of the predator commands instant respect. Stretching up to 250 centimeters, 2 feet from head to rump, basically the length of a grand piano with another meter of tail trailing behind, they are built for raw, unadulterated power. At a shoulder height of 123 centimeters 4 feet, a male can easily look an average child right in the eye without even raising his heavy head. And then there is the weight, tipping the scales at up to 225 kilograms, nearly 500 pounds. A large male weighs as much as a small, heavy-duty motorcycle. The females, while slightly smaller at up to 192 kilograms, 423 pounds, are the primary hunters and the true lethal engine of the savanna. What truly set them apart from every other feline on Earth is their social structure. You won't find them wandering as solitary assassins. They are the only social big cats, forming prides of 15 to 30 individuals. This family unit operates as a tactical army, allowing them to take down massive prey and fiercely defend their territory from rival coalitions. Yet, this formidable army is losing its war. Today, there are only about 22,000 adult and sub-adult lions left in the African wild. They have been violently pushed out of their ancestral lands, now occupying a mere 8% of their historic range. Habitat loss, deadly conflict with expanding human settlement, and the depletion of their natural prey have driven the species to a vulnerable status overall, with specific groups like the West African lions plunging into the critically endangered category. A king without a kingdom is just an exile. And as their savannas continue to shrink, the African lion proved that even the most powerful family bonds cannot stop the relentless march of human expansion. Looking at the Asiatic lion is a jarring reminder of a forgotten history. These are the descendants of a lineage that once ruled lands stretching from the Mediterranean, across the Middle East and Persia, all the way into the Indian subcontinent. Now, only one single wild population remains. While they might be slightly more compact than their African cousins, make no mistake, this is a formidable predator. an adult male weighs between 160 and 190 kilograms, or up to 420 pounds, which is roughly the mass of a heavy upright piano or 2 adult men combined. Stretching nearly 3 meters or almost 10 feet long, they are the length of a small room, and standing 110 centimeters at the shoulder, they easily dwarf even the largest Mastiff dogs. They are ruggedly built for the dry, unforgiving scrub and deciduous terrain of their last sanctuary. Visually, the Asiatic lion carries the physical markers of its unique evolution. You will immediately notice that the males have a much sparser, less developed mane, leaving their ears entirely exposed, and they possess a distinctive, pronounced fold of skin running along their belly that you simply won't see on the lions of the Serengeti. Today, their entire existence is confined to the Gir Forest and its surrounding regions in Gujarat, India. But their story holds a rare glimmer of hope. Once pushed to the absolute brink of extinction with only a handful left, dedicated conservation efforts have sparked a miraculous recovery. Recent census data from 2025 reports their numbers climbing as high as 891 individuals, pulling them back from critically endangered to endangered status. Yet, because they exist in just one lone, heavily concentrated population, a single natural disaster or disease outbreak could still wipe them off the map. They are the ultimate survivors of a forgotten era, proving that a king can fight to rebuild an empire, even if that empire is now reduced to a single forest. Barbary lion, the ghost of the Maghreb. When you look at ancient Roman mosaics of gladiator arenas, the massive, dark-maned beasts depicted weren't brought from the savannas of Kenya. They were Barbary lions, the powerful North African monarchs that once prowled a vast territory stretching from the Atlas Mountains of Morocco all the way to the borders of Egypt. Today, they are nothing more than a ghost of the Maghreb. Relentless hunting pressure and the unstoppable expansion of human settlements completely eliminated their wild populations by the mid-20th century. Not a single wild Barbary lion exists on Earth today. For decades, scientists believed there were a completely distinct subspecies, a unique breed of mountain king. But modern genetics has rewritten their history, placing these vanished giants squarely within the broader Panthera leo clade, sharing deep DNA ties with the Asiatic lions of India. Yet, knowing their genetic cousins survive doesn't bring them back to the Atlas Mountains. The Barbary lion stands as a haunting reminder that no predator, no matter how feared or revered, can survive a war against human expansion. When you look at the raw data of the lion's reign, the reality is chilling. At the turn of the 20th century, the earth was shaking with the roars of roughly 200,000 lions. Today, that number has plummeted to just 24. To understand that catastrophic loss, imagine a thriving, bustling city, roughly the population of Salt Lake City or Geneva, antically erased over a few generations until only enough individuals remain to fill a single indoor hockey arena. That is an 88% erasure, driven relentlessly by habitat loss and violent, inevitable conflict with expanding human populations. The IUCN officially classifies the overall species as vulnerable, but that label is a dangerously comforting generalization. When you look closer at the map, the West African populations are critically endangered, hanging by a biological thread, while the solitary wild Asiatic population is entirely bottlenecked as endangered. Lions once cast their golden shadows across the savannas of Africa, the deep forests of Eurasia, and far into the Indian subcontinent. Their violent retreat isn't just the story of a fading apex predator. It is a mirror reflecting our own relentless expansion and the slow, deliberate collapse of ancient ecosystems across millennia. We are dismantling the king's empire piece by piece. And if we don't stop, we will soon find ourselves ruling a kingdom that is completely empty. From the sprawling, golden plains of Africa to the solitary, dry forests of India, the lion stands as a creature of impossible contradictions. When you look at them, whether it's a massive African pride moving like a synchronized military unit, or a singular Asiatic survivor patrolling the Gir Forest, you are witnessing the physical embodiment of majesty wrapped in terrifying vulnerability. Their future isn't guaranteed by their muscle, their bite, or their legacy. Changes entirely on a fragile truce, protecting wild spaces that must span thousands of square miles, restoring severely depleted prey bases, and finding a way for modern humans to coexist with the very apex predator we spent centuries trying to conquer. Because extinction is a permanent silence. Once a territory is paved over, once a family pride is broken, and once that ground-shaking roar fades into history, it can never be reclaimed. If you want to join the journey of conservation and learn more about the big cats fighting for their place in our wild world, hit subscribe now.